The news of the 7 England players to be cut from Gareth Southgate's final England squad for Euro 2024 was gradually drip-fed throughout Thursday afternoon until finally at 5:28 p.m. the official squad was announced. And although 4 of the 7 omissions line up with my predicted squad that I posted on Wednesday, there are a few surprises here that could really affect how the Three Lions line up in Germany this summer. So I'm going to chat through my reaction, my thoughts on this squad, and I'd love to hear your own thoughts in the comments below. Straight off the bat then, the 7 England players that are going to miss Euro 2024 after making the provisional squad are Jack Grealish, Harry Maguire, Jarrad Branthwaite, James Maddison, Curtis Jones, Jarell Quansah and James Trafford. Now the last 4 or so from Maddison I'm not too surprised by, but Maguire, Grealish and Branthwaite are different stories entirely. The biggest shocks here clearly are at centre-back. Harry Maguire, our number 1 left-sided centre-back for 3 tournaments in a row, hasn't recovered from his calf injury sustained at the end of the season and will not be on the plane. That is a huge deal because it's not exactly obvious who's going to be pairing up with Stones. Will it be Dunk, Quansah, Gomez, Gueye, Walker? None of these are left-footed, and the only other left-footed centre-back in that squad was Branthwaite. And I say pairing with Stones, but he missed out on Monday's friendly with injury. And Gueye's unfit too, so that narrows the pool further. Now I think Maguire's absence is interesting for a few reasons. One being that he is taking Luke Shaw, who's been out with injury since February. That's on the basis that he could become match fit midway through the tournament, which I think is still a little bit tenuous. But he's not taking Harry Maguire, who was injured later, which suggests that maybe his injury has become particularly exaggerated over the past week and means he'll miss the entire tournament. But he did take Harry Maguire to the World Cup in similar circumstances, so it makes you wonder if there is more at play here. Is this purely about injury or is there another reason behind it? And of course another interesting factor to this is that he hasn't taken Branthwaite despite the fact that Maguire is injured and we're potentially short at centre-back. As I say, Branthwaite is a comfortable left-footed centre-back. He got 13 clean sheets in the Premier League this season with Everton, and instead he's opted for Lewis Dunk, a 32-year-old centre-back who has never played for England at a tournament and probably never will again after Germany. It's a hard one to get my head around really. Branthwaite obviously hasn't had that experience for England yet. You don't necessarily want to see him chucked straight in at centre-back in such a huge tournament. But Lewis Dunk as the alternative, who's not going to be in England's future, I'm not really sure on that one. Now Grealish is less of a surprise to me. I personally would have taken him, but he's been part of the last 2 international squads and used incredibly sparingly by Gareth Southgate. We cried out for him at Euro 2020 and he was limited to sub appearances there. He barely got any minutes at the World Cup with Sterling, Rashford and Foden often deployed on the left above him. And I think this one really just comes down to form. This season he got 3 goals and 3 assists for basically the best team in the world. And he's really not been able to get into that starting team very much. It's the same deal for James Maddison, and I think that's why he's not there either. There's just no room for those players when you've got people like Easy, Gordon, Bowen, who have scored rakes of goals this season. And even then, they're all behind Foden and Saka as well. I think these cuts are most surprising because it continues what we saw in the provisional squad, in that it's very un-Southgate. No Rashford, no Sterling, Grealish, Henderson. Southgate has actually gone for form over favouritism for once on the rest of his decisions in this squad. Now a lot of people are surprised and concerned about what this means for the Three Lions. It's important to consider the positive impact of these cuts too. Wharton, Mainu, Eze, Gordon, Bowen, Palmer, Watkins, Tony, all going off to the Euros. You could probably argue that there's a couple there that are shock inclusions. But one thing you can't argue with is the seasons that they have all had, and we've been crying out for years for Southgate to pick players based on form. Not only has he done that, but it seems there is an element of succession planning here too, with younger players like Wharton, Mainu, Eze, Gordon all making this squad, and they're players that are potentially going to be involved in the England setup for a decade to come. And if you look at other nations, there are other teams in this tournament that are doing a similar thing and freshening up their squad. France being a really good example, with Lloris finally departing, Varane being replaced at centre-back. And we saw that with the provisional squad that Gareth Southgate named, that a lot of people were very pleased with. It's a bit of a changing of the guard here. Now, how many minutes these new players get is a different question entirely. But I'd expect at the very least that Wharton, Mainu and Eze will be pushing for minutes at this tournament, which can only be a positive thing for their England futures. So when you take it back to those 7 players that have been cut, the only real disaster here is Harry Maguire, because he is our number 1 centre-back next to John Stones. and it is not obvious who is going to be that next player to fill his boots. But some people have been calling for this for years. A lot of people don't rate him, but I personally think he's been great for England. He's never put a foot wrong on the national stage. But we are going to finally see what life looks like without Harry Maguire. Now, the only worry for me is I was already worried down our left-hand side. Obviously, Luke Shaw, we don't know if he's going to be starting the tournament or not. He's our only natural left-back in the squad, so it already was looking like we're going to be playing another defender out of position in that role, with Trippier often filling in there. But it now looks like there's potential that that's going to happen with the centre-back next to that position as well, which leaves that left-hand side looking a little bit open and a little bit weak. I could potentially see a situation where if Stones is fit, he's pushed across into that left centre-back role, and then another centre-back comes in, like Gay, like Konsa, or even Carl Walker. That's happened at Man City before. And then someone else comes in at right back, whether that's Trippier or Trent Arnold actually plays as a right back rather than in midfield. Tonight's friendly against Iceland will be very interesting for this reason. We hopefully should see something closer to the team that's going to play at the tournament, and it should reveal the answer to some of these questions. Anyway, that's my 2 cents on the squad for now. I think this is looking like a really positive squad overall, other than that surprise of Maguire. What do you think? Are you concerned? Do you think this dents our chances at the Euros? Let me know your thoughts in the comments below, and if you've enjoyed this reaction video and you don't already subscribe to the channel, then please do hit like and subscribe as well. Thanks very much, and I'll see you in the next video. Cheers!